Hi, everybody. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Miriam, I was just checking to see if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
we'll just wait a few more minutes. We don't quite have a quorum and got a couple of agenda items before we get to you, Mary Jo. Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Miriam,
hi,
can you hear me?
Scott. Yeah, that's a good
Okay,
start.
I would test that out.
All right, we're just waiting for 7 o'clock on my clock, and then we'll get started. Hmm. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Carrie, the minutes that you and I are doing jointly, I'm taking the second half, right?
Correct.
It is a long meeting. I just looked at it. It's 3 hours.
Yeah, that's why I shared concerns that I am behind on minutes, and that when I'm catching up that 3 hour block one was definitely going to
No
be
kidding.
hard to
Well,
push through.
I
I'm
will.
almost done with my half though, so that should be getting to you over
Okay.
this weekend, and then
All right.
August
You
is
know,
looking much shorter, so a lot
I
easier.
don't I don't know if you've ever done this, but you can download transcripts.
I've done it once, and honestly, I hated it.
Oh, it
It
didn't
was
help.
not very efficient for me. I tried it, didn't like it.
All right. Well, fair enough. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We are going to open the meeting for the Shutesbury Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. Tonight we have present Miriam DeFont, Mary David, Scott Kahn, and Robin Harrington. We'll call the meeting to order. The first thing we have on our agenda is a very quick item for we were going to open the public hearing for 56 Lake Drive, DP file number 286302. which I'm now opening. Hi, Ward.
Aye.
And the circumstance is that there was some confusion about getting the legal notice submitted in time. And as a result, abutter notifications were sent out, but the legal ad didn't get placed in time. So if there are abutters here or anybody from the public who is here for this hearing, we want to let people know that we are going to have to continue to another date so that a legal ad can be placed. And the date the date we've decided on was Thursday, October 12th at 7:30 p.m. Is that correct with you, Ward?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to say it's not any information for the hearing, but I have paid for the legal ad over the phone by credit card. So that should be all taken care of.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. So
So we're asking for a continuance till the 12th at 7:30, October 12th.
So I'm going to move that we continue this public hearing for 56 Lake Drive to Thursday, October 12th at 7:30 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. David?
Aye.
DeFont? Aye. Harrington?
Aye.
Khan?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll see you then. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda, we're to approve minutes. So we have the minutes from July 12th and July 13th. There were a couple of typos. So I sent off a corrected version of the July 12th minutes. Have folks had a chance to look at July 12th yet?
Looked okay to me.
And I was out of the country that entire week, so I missed both of those meetings. So I'm abstaining from.
Well, Scott, were you at that meeting? I have a feeling you might not have been.
Yeah, I was just looking
We-
back to see.
Because then we wouldn't have a quorum to approve them tonight. So let me just open it up.
Well, I saw that I was missing from one of them, and both me and Scott were missing from another one.
So Scott, you were present for the 12th. So
No,
hallelujah. So would somebody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of July 12th.
Second,
I'll second.
David,
Aye.
DeFont, aye. Harrington,
Abstain.
Khan.
Aye.
Okay, so for July 13th, we may actually have a problem because Beth is not going to be here tonight. And let me take a quick look who was there. Yeah, so Scott, you were absent and we don't have a quorum, so we will postpone those minutes to another meeting. Okay. Next on our agenda, we were contacted by some residents who are organizing an invasive species management task force in Shutesbury. And I don't know if more than one of them are available here tonight. I know Mary Jo is it Maffei or how do you pronounce your last name?
Maffei.
Maffei. So Mary Jo had contacted us. I had heard her also speaking at a select board meeting about this. And I had reached out because I definitely feel like this is within our Conservation Commission's wheelhouse. We're very interested in these issues. And, I think we want to support these efforts. So did you want to give a little presentation to us, Mary Jo, about what your thoughts are about this?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Yeah, I have a little PowerPoint.
And you wanted screen sharing. So Carrie, could you make her a co-host?
It's all set. And also, Mary Jo, do you mind spelling your last name for me so I have it correct on the minute?
Sure, it's Maff like in Frank, EI.
Okay, thank you. All right, anytime you want to start. And Mary Jo, I don't know if you knew this, but Robin Harrington, who is on our commission, did her doctoral research on invasive species.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great.
Masters too.
Okay, that counts.
All my grad students at UMass did invasives. Plants, only invasive plants.
Okay. So are you seeing that?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, share screen. Oh, okay. So you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Well, I want to really thank all of you for giving us the time to talk about our new task force, Subduing Knotweed Task Force. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and went to the invasive species seminar that the library and the recreation committee had, and really decided this was a thing that I wanted to pursue. Talked to a few people, and got some buy-in, and so I just want to tell you, so briefly, I just want to tell you what our purpose is tonight. How bad is knotweed really? Our goals of our task force, the organization of our task force, and a little bit about controlling knotweed. So our purpose tonight is really simple. We just sort of started up. We talked to Becky and was like, well, you should talk to the select board and so forth. So we just want to let you know what we're thinking at this point, and you know that we hope to collaborate with you. So one of the reasons that it's so important is that we just feel like we really want our habitat to be as pristine as possible for our children and our grandchildren and everybody's children. And you can take a little fishing hole like these girls are fishing at, and if you're not careful, it can soon look like this or this. And there, you know, the kids can't even get to the pond. And pretty much the knotweed destroys all the plants, the shrubs, the trees, and then all those native insects that depend on these specific goldenrod, the specific native plant. Those are, and then native insects are no longer there, so they don't fall into the fishing hole, and so the fish don't live there. And then really it could actually get washed away because research that's been done in Vermont after Irene shows that because of the nature of how the rhizomes in knotweed, it doesn't hold banks back. So in Irene, Hurricane Irene, there was much more flooding and erosion where there was knotweed. So it's really a problem. It's one of the top 10 worst invasive species in the world, according to the Forest Department. And so, you know, our real goal is to keep and restore habitat. And obviously there are a ton of invasives that need to be controlled, but I would like to work, and people that I've been talking to, on knotweed particularly because how fast it can overrun environments and how terrible it can be. So we really want to keep and restore habitat. So some of our goals, and like I said, this is really a nascent task force, so we're evolving, and if you think there should be other goals, I'd love to hear that. But one of the big goals is education. I was talking to a friend of mine who is an environmentalist, and she didn't know what it looked like. So, you know, just getting the word out, hey, this is what it looks like, this is what it does. And then we want to, you know, contact aligned organizations, land trusts, environmentals, and try to work with them. And then with state and town organizations, we want to see about finding funding so that we can do more work. And this is just not one of these things that you can set up a volunteer group and do a project and then you're done. This is something that's going to be going on for as long as we can imagine. We're going to be controlling this. So the systems we develop, yeah, sure, we can go out as a group and we might want to do that and try to get rid of some knotweed, but we really need to think about it in a long-term view. And then finally, I was a climate activist. I worked for Clean Water Action for 8 years, mostly volunteer, but also paid. And really, our towns are not funded to do this kind of work. And so, eventually, like to work with our legislators to develop legislation and create funding for towns. And then we want to manage knotweed, in a sustainable way. We don't want to be extra toxic. We want to do, balance and do what's best for our environment. So our organization, I purposely keeping it small at first. I do have a whole cadre of people that I've worked with. I've grew a climate organization from like about 3 people to about 40 active people and about 1,000 people on my mailing list. So, but I want to grow the organization, but I don't want to do it until we're kind of ready. And I want it to be a statewide organization, because you can go out there and you can look, and there's towns around that state who are working on it, volunteer groups. There's a Springfield area has a whole plan. These are all really great initiatives. But if your neighbor has knotweed, it's a problem for you. And if Montague is covered with knotweed, which it is, it's a problem for us. So I eventually, and my some of the contacts I have are statewide, so that's partially why I want to do that. And then we talked a little bit to the select board. We're talking to you. We're talking to Becky, and to decide, and I hope have a Shutesbury committee that's working on it in our town. I've talked to Steve at the highway department, and he's very enthusiastic about it. And we're also fortunate that we have a number of experts, and now I know another's experts from your group that we can get advice from. So that's really our organization at this point. It's not a big organization. It really, maybe there's 7 or 8 of us who I've talked to, and people who both Miriam and Beth have expressed interest, but I wouldn't want to claim that everybody's on the committee until they really have committed, or what amount of time they committed. So and so how do we manage knotweed? Well, what we really want to do is we want to investigate models for removal of knotweed. And I'm going to turn it over to Rich Karsten. He lives in Leverett, and he has had some on his property, and he's just going to, we don't know what we want to do as far as removal, but he's just going to give a little bit of an update about that. Rich, are you there?
I had to unmute. Thank you, Mary Jo. I appreciate that we're taking the time to look at this issue. I'm definitely no expert. I'm just a resident that's been watching knotweed growing on our roadsides. It grows right across the street from me and on my neighbor's land, and occasionally pops up on my property. And over the years, I'm seeing it spread. I'm seeing that it is extremely difficult to get rid of. I'm seeing the town crews mowing and homeowners mowing, and it's not eliminating it. Perhaps spreading. It's definitely a concern of mine. One of our key goals, my partner Heather and I, is to restore our habitat, try to bring back the native species. We really enjoy our birds. I'm a beekeeper. It's been a really good year for honey. There's been a lot of flowers out there. But as I noticed those spots where the knotweed has gotten established, there is nothing else, and it seems to be spreading. So I really appreciate the time everyone's taken to look into this and see what we might be able to do about it and how to address it. I don't particularly have any answers. I can imagine there's no silver bullet, that it might be important to look at things on a case-by-case basis and see what makes sense. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. So really that's the end of my presentation. Just the idea that we want to keep our town as clean as we can. A number of people who might have spoken today weren't available, but there are some people very concerned about Shutesbury, and I know that Becky is quite concerned too, and I know that you guys, that's your mission, and you wouldn't be on a committee like this if it wasn't important to you. I'm fortunate I don't have any on my property, so it's not exactly a personal thing, but I've been out to other people's properties where it's as a gardener and whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, So we, be happy to take any questions or any suggestions or whatever you have. But we just wanted to let you know mainly that we're starting something up, and because I live in Shutesbury and I love Shutesbury, it seems like a great place to start.
Thank you. Well, a couple of points of information I'll share. One is that I'm hearing some reverb here. Are other people hearing it? Okay. One issue is that thinking about who else is interested in these issues, and another group for you to reach out to is that we don't want to have lots of committees sort of doing things across purposes and not communicating. So there is an Energy and Climate Action Committee in Shutesbury. I'm actually on it, but it reports and advises the select board. And our group had identified invasive species management as being one of our priorities.
Great.
It would be great if you could get this on the agenda and come to one of our meetings. I just want to invite you to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
The other thing I just wanted to share, just as a point of history, and this may be something to take back as you're developing a local group, is that there is a history here in Shutesbury where historically the highway department did spray with glyphosate. And some residents were concerned about it and asked the highway department to stop doing it. As far as I know, they have stopped. I don't know if they ever resumed doing it. But I think that you want to get buy-in from the community. And I think there's a lot of concern about glyphosate and the impact in the groundwater because of health risks. And so I think that, the community may be much more able to embrace this if there are non-toxic, non-glyphosate methods being used.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that's a tough sell because glyphosate is very effective, but there might be other models to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any, Scott, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you, Mary Jo, and thanks, Rich, for your comments and presentation. I too have seen more knotweed here. I'm also a beekeeper. I noticed almost all of our honey this year was knotweed honey. So things have changed over time. I am wondering if where we might go from here. It seems like there are some best management practices that maybe we could use along roadsides. I think knotweed and many other invasives tend to thrive where there's disturbance. I see a lot of knotweed growing out in, our in our forests or elsewhere. It's really in places where there has been disturbance around roadways, around other types, power line rights of way, other things where we're, have kept competition down. And, in these invasives, and it's not just knotweed, it's, garlic mustard and
Yeah.
other invasives are coming in. And so I'm wondering if there might be some energy around trying to pull together, our best management practices for how we manage some of these, especially within the town. But I'm really thankful that you're interested in this topic. I am too. So anyways,
Great.
thanks for the information.
Can I ask, I see Rob's got his hand raised. But let me ask a question, Mary Jo. It looks like you're organizing at a state level, but just in terms of our little world here in Shutesbury, you're also considering trying to get just a working group. That was my understanding, just for Shutesbury. Is that right?
Yep. I need help to do that. And I think there's at least one person who's very dedicated to doing that and probably will commit to doing that. But so that's why I didn't say establish one, because if I can get, community, someone's support for doing that, yes, I would really love that. I think
I think there's some energy around this. I know, I think people have reached out to you. I'm interested. Rob Kibler is interested.
I'm interested.
Married to me and is
Great.
in this room.
Right.
Other people are as well, I think.
Right.
But maybe we could set up a meeting.
Yeah, it would be great. I have my email there. If you could email me, Scott, so I can, put you on my mailing list and start that process.
Great. So I see a couple hands raised, and we're gonna have, we've got a limited amount of time scheduled for this discussion, but certainly want to let people participate. So Rob, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm not sure glyphosate is really effective. The areas where the town sprayed for a couple of years in a row grew right back. And the state's been spraying along 91 for years with no apparent decrease in the vibrance of the knotweed. So I don't know how many years it takes in a row to get rid of it, but certainly 1 or 2 or even 3 years doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's terribly hard. I mean, I don't know why I took on some impossible stuff with climate. So this is a very difficult topic, and so I'm really trying to be as open to figuring this out as we can.
I saw Mary Lou, you had your hand raised. Mary Lou, did you want us to raise them?
Yes, hi. I'm very interested, and if a committee were to become active in Shutesbury, I would be very interested. I don't know how to get in touch with anybody.
So I have my email there, maryjomaffei22@gmail.com. Do you see that?
No,
Oh.
I don't have. Oh, wait a minute. Would it be on the screen share?
Yeah, it's on the screen share.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay, I'll take a picture. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So feel free to call. Calling is even better sometimes than emailing, because you can really talk about stuff. And so I really encourage you to contact me so we can get started. And there's a lot of opinions, and we really need to figure out how we want to go forward.
Thank you.
Great.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
A student who was a grad student with me and my husband in Wisconsin studied retranslocation in forest trees, where the leaves, the trees suck everything but good out of the leaves and put it down in the roots to have it saved for the next year. He moved here and to Vermont, I think, and his property was covered in knotweed, and he tried cutting it down and it kept growing back. And finally he said, wait a minute, what did I learn in my dissertation? So he let it grow and go great. And then in the fall, when it was about to suck all the stuff back down, that's when he zapped it, and it went down and it killed the roots.
Yes, I've read about
Just an
that.
idea.
That there are certain times of year where you can keep it trimmed and it weakens the root structure. But it requires some management.
Right. Well, this wasn't trimming. This was letting it just go crazy and spraying it so it took the chemicals down into the roots and killed the roots.
Oh, so you're worse. That did involve spraying chemicals.
It did involve spraying chemicals, but it was a one-time thing.
Yeah.
I'll have to dig up his dissertation.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is the concern about glyphosate. I was read an article about a method treating glyphosate treating knotweed with trimming it and then injecting the stems with acid, with like an acid solution, like white vinegar, basically. And that also acted as a non-toxic herbicide. Yeah, Rob.
Sorry. Shutesbury Highway Department did spray it in the fall, just as it was going to seed.
Okay.
They did spray it when?
In the fall.
You said in the fall.
They always do?
The 2 times that I've seen them do it, yes.
In recent years, though?
Before they were told not to do it, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. That was a couple.
Because honestly, I thought they were a little off on that. And then I looked it up and found that it was the better management technique.
I see. Okay. Do we have enough for now? Should we move on to the next part of our agenda? I think. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say thank you. And also having been on committees and having my husband on committees, it is amazing how much work that goes into being part of the Conservation Commission. And I really want to thank you for your volunteering, because it's always a hard work and not always appreciated. So thank you very much for both allowing me to speak and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Okay. Great. Let's move on. Since we have a lighter agenda tonight and we haven't had a chance, I wanted to give Mary a chance in case, Mary, you wanted to give us any updates from LWAC. I didn't tell you this in advance, so.
Oh, yes.
Can we take this off screen share? Yeah, thanks.
There we go. So, right now, LWAC is still involved in trying to get a contractor that'll look at the dam and look at all of the hire the person. They did talk at the select board the other day about accepting the one contractor and seeing what they would need to do to work out a contract. So hopefully they'll be working on that as we're doing it. They were also looking at when the drawdown this year would be, and as of right now, we've asked not to have that done until November 1st, just so the culvert project can get completed. It does seem to be going pretty quickly, and it might actually be done a little sooner, knock on wood, to be able to look at that. The other thing that they still are receiving complaints about is on Lake Drive, the water overflow coming down and dragging parts of the road into the lake, especially in front of Bob Douglas's house. And they were going to try to contact George from LWA to have them, when they get, I think October 1st is their roads day, to go out and look at it and see if there's any other options that they can do. But that's mostly what they're kind of working on right now.
Yeah, that's helpful. We were contacted by Becky saying that the town was wanting an update and wanted to consult with the commission about the drawdown for this year, because they're in the process of developing a new notice of intent, but it's not going to be ready for this fall. The permit doesn't expire, so the existing permit is still in place, but I think that they were looking for some clarity about what the commission's expectations were. I asked Becky whether coming to our October 12th meeting would be an option, but she said it wasn't, and I haven't checked the email to see what else they wanted. But my thought was, because we don't want to kind of leave things hanging, was that perhaps a clarifying letter from the commission, just clarifying what the status is of the permit and what our understanding is of the terms of the permit, would be helpful to them.
Yeah.
To go back to the original NOI and draft a letter, just confirming that, and that way they would have some clarity from us.
Not changing anything because their permit is still in effect.
Exactly. But the permit itself requires the drawdown not to begin before November 1st.
Yes.
I know there was some discussion about perhaps wanting to delay the drawdown to, sometime in November. DP requires that and the permit requires that it be completed by December 1st. So it all depends on the rapidity that you can do the drawdown. And that depends on water levels. If it's been raining a lot, it may take a while to achieve the drawdown that they want.
Yeah, and they really are trying to watch if it really does with these cold days we've had, in October, if it really starts to get down, you really do want to start the drawdown before it freezes to give all of the animals a chance to seek where they're going to hibernate to for the winter time. So they're going to be watching that too. That's historically sometimes they've started before October 1st because of the potential for freezing before November 1st, excuse me.
Right. But the permit says November 1st, and the DP guidelines, state guidelines say November 1st. So I think that we just have some clarity about that for now, for this year. So my recommendation is that we stick to the November 1st. And that would be my recommendation. And just, it's a November 1st to December 1st window, which is sort of based on, kind of the needs of the species that exist in the, and you can't have the drawdown too quickly, because then the species that are along the shoreline don't have an opportunity to migrate to deeper water. So the drawdown has to be a certain number of inches per day. There's a maximum, and I believe it's 3 inches per day. It can't be more than that. So, they have to achieve 24 inches. So 24, that's what? 8 days. Maybe it could be done in 8 to 10 days. I can't judge. Would need to hear from them, if that's feasible. I don't know if that's even what they were looking for. That was just talked about. So, what do you commissioners think we should do?
And I guess I wouldn't want to make too big a deal of it, but, a simple letter that just says, these are the 2 or 3 things that you mentioned that we'd like to see happen. Mm-hmm. Just to clarify.
Yep. Yeah, for this fall, with the understanding that, they're working on a new updated permit, but that's not going to be ready for a while.
No. Yeah.
And fortunately, since the permit's not expiring, the deadline was extended because of the pandemic. It's given, everybody a little bit of breathing room to work with the existing permit.
Right.
Okay. So I will draft a letter for the next meeting.
Okay.
if that is okay. All right. Is there anything else, Mary?
That's it.
They haven't gotten the watershed-based plan yet back?
No. And actually they were going to call and make sure. Nobody seemed to have understood if they've gotten a final version back yet for people to look at after they made their last changes. Mark hadn't gotten it, and I don't think we got a final after the changes were made either. So he was contacting them to see if they actually had finalized all of that to be willing to be ready to take it on and publish it, but
okay,
that hasn't occurred yet.
Okay. Updates on the culvert project. You've been out there more recently, and we got some a site visit report after a storm where they had done some repairs to the erosion controls, which is great. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Mary?
So just really so the bypass is in place. I did go once it was running so that I could actually see it running. The sandbags and the pump up over seem to be working well. And the outflow down the other end was flowing well. It was flowing pretty good that day because it was after a rain I went to look. And then their next step was to drain out a little bit of water that was still left, and then they should be able to start digging. But it looked like it was working really well, and it worked well to after the rainfall that time. So hopefully we don't get a tremendous amount, but even with that, it's big enough. I mean, you can almost stand inside of it. It's pretty big, so I think it should work fine. And it looked really good, and I can hear them working over there. They've gotten a lot of work digging it out. When I was there, they already had the old culvert already dug all out, and we're getting ready to basically take it apart and get rid of it so that they could bring the new one in. So they were already working on that, and expected to be moving forward pretty quickly. The rain that they've had lately hasn't really slowed them down.
Okay, great. Well, it's good news. Glad they're getting that done.
They're happy to get it done too.
The West Quabbin Woodlands Conservation Area. So we had a site visit a couple of weeks ago with Robin, you were there, right?
Yes.
And I was there, and Beth Wilson and Janice Stone, and we had Stuart Watson from Kestrel Land Trust, and I'm trying to remember, was anybody else there? Was Penny there? Penny was there, I think, right? Penny Jakes. Anyway, so one of our goals was to look at areas for potential parking area development, and we locate Stuart on Pelham Hill Road showed us 2 or 3 different options where a very small gravel parking area for maybe 2 vehicles could be sited, and then potentially a plan for a looping trail that would stay on the property and let people get all the way down to the stream so they could view the stream, but they wouldn't be crossing the stream. He also described that perhaps in the future, there could be opportunities to link up any trails that were developed with a larger trail system that exists on Sirius's property, but that would require a stream crossing and a lot of planning coordination. And we're at phase 1 here. We're not ready for considering all of that, I think. So the steps involved are going to be to decide where we want to put the parking area, and then perhaps beginning to discuss where we want to put this looping trail. The looping trail option that he shared with us does involve crossing over a small intermittent stream wetland, so that there would need to be either a bog bridge or a footbridge of some sort. So that would be one crossing that it would require. The rest of it would all be in upland areas, and there wouldn't need to be any stream crossing. It's not a large area. It wouldn't have to be a large footbridge. So I think we have to make some decisions about what the next step is. We've got a fund of money available for the parking area and signage. Got $5,000 from the CPA fund. So, you know, I could begin the process of looking for quotes to see who might be able to do the construction work for this little parking area. And we also talked about reaching out to the neighbors to make sure that they're aware of it and that there aren't any objections to having this small parking area near there's a couple homes. Anything you want to add, Robin?
I think when reaching out to neighbors, if anyone was complaining that they didn't want cars across the street, we should point out that Kestrel, you know, got this property to put in conservation restriction. It could be entirely developed and they'd have houses all along that side of the road. The fact that it's kept in conservation.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm hoping it won't be an issue. And my guess is that, you know, like other areas, we may have like a dawn to dusk sign so that there would be overnight parking. So I personally liked the location that was farther to the south, closer to the Pelham line. I thought that was, you know, made sense to me in terms of accessing the trail that we discussed, that trail loop.
Yeah, I agree, because the trail access was right there. That would.
And the other two locations look like there might be a steeper slope down to where you would access a trail. So it felt to me like, yeah, that just felt like it made more sense. So that would be my druthers. So I was going to reach out to Kestrel and see if they have some contractors that they would recommend. I had originally thought that perhaps the highway department would do it, but I'm not sure that is an option. I certainly could ask. It's not a lot of work, but we would also want to make sure that, you know, we have a maintenance plan for it once it's once it's constructed. Anyway, okay. Next thing about West Quabbin Woodlands Conservation Area is that there was a baseline survey that I shared with everybody that needs to get signed off and submitted to the state by Kestrel before the CR can be approved and recorded. And so I forwarded it to everybody. This was the property survey that the Kestrel baseline surveyor conducted, where he verified that all of the boundary markers were in place and that there weren't any incursions on the property, encroachments, I mean, of which there are none. So did anybody have any comments on the documents? Okay. I don't think we need to vote to approve it. I'll just let them know that we're okay with it. So it looks like the CR is getting close to being released by the state after all these months, and then it can be signed at the local level and then finally recorded. Hallelujah. And I believe Bridget has volunteered from Kestrel's volunteered to do the recording for us, which is lovely. But if she can't do it, we could ask Donna. Donna McNichol also said she could do it, because she's in Greenfield. So if her office is in Greenfield, it'd be convenient for her. So one way or another, this hopefully will get all the signatures, and then we'll have satisfied that requirement of the CPA grant, because the CPA grant requires that the CR be filed. While we're on conservation restrictions, I got a couple updates about other conservation restriction areas that we have a role in. The Sumner Mountain Conservation Restriction is held by the Conservation Commission, which requires a monitoring site visit every year. So we approved using Charlie Eisman to go out and do that survey like he's done for the last few years, which is very helpful because it's mountainous terrain. It's not, personally, I wouldn't love doing that myself. So what happens as a condition of that CR is that the landowner, when they sell the property, they have to put some money into an escrow fund with the town that helps us to pay for these surveys. And two of the properties abutting it have been sold. I got contacted by Chuck Damari, who owns the top property, and has just sold it. And he said that we would be getting some checks from the new landowners that will go into this account that we use. He also said that as a condition of the CR, every 4 years, when it is a leap year, the commission has the authority to increase the fee that is paid. You can only do it once every 4 years, and I believe next year may be a leap year. So the question we should be looking at is, you know, given the amount of funds we have in that escrow account, and what it costs to have this monitoring done, you know, what is our forecast for the next few years, and whether we want to increase those fees. So just kind of put a reminder to think about that. Okay. The other CR issue is that we should have done it in the spring, and my apologies that we didn't, but we are responsible for the CR monitoring for Old Peach Orchard. And last year we did in October, and ideally you want to do it alternating years, once in the fall, once in the spring. However, you know, we can do it in the fall, but you know, I'd like to get some commitment of who wants to be on that visit, and then try to coordinate it with the folks down in the neighborhood. Who's interested?
I would be, because I've been there before.
Okay. Scott, do you want to do it again?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, if we can pick a date when I'm around, or I defer.
Okay. Well, maybe the best thing is for us to try to do it by doodle poll, because it's a bigger group. So I'll try to come up with some weekends and see what we come up with. Okay. Yeah, it's a nice little walk. It's a nice piece of property. Okay, other site visits that we need to go over. We already talked about Locks Pond and the West Quabbin Woodlands. We did the site visit for 56 Lake Drive, which we're going to talk about next week. And I was there, and Robin and Mary were there. Anybody want to just explain what we saw? Well, so this is the house where they have a little kind of timber steps down the side of their property, and they just want to extend the steps. Look like maybe there had been steps that have worn away and kind of deteriorated, so they're just putting in some pressure treated steps with gravel to add a few more steps down.
It looked like a good idea. It's going to make it much safer to get up and down their slope.
Yeah. So pretty straightforward. What? I'm sorry. Is that you, Mary? Oh. Is Mary frozen? I think we lost Mary. Okay. Well, hopefully she'll unfreeze. Okay. We did a site visit today at 41 Lake Drive. This was a building permit application for a concrete patio. So their property. I'm sorry, who's talking? Is that Mary still? Mary, you're frozen. Okay. So this property abuts a stream that goes under a culvert and empties into the lake. And so the property is within 100 feet of the stream. So it's a buffer zone project. And so my recommendation would be that we advise the landowner to do an RDA for this project. It's about a 500 square foot concrete patio. Any questions or discussion about that? You back, Mary?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We lost you for a sec, I think.
Yeah, I don't know about this time of night. My internet keeps kicking me out now.
Okay. Well, so anyway, any other discussion about that, about an RDA for that?
And how about, did you talk about their tree they want to take down?
Yeah, there's a dead tree that they want to take down. They're agreeing not to stump it, and it is clearly dead. I didn't have a problem with them taking it down. So I was going to get back to them and give them approval. That seemed fine to me. The other issue I wanted to just bring up is that right next to the stream is a large pile of gravel, which I think may have been like road material for people to fill potholes. And it's right.
LWA puts that there.
Yeah, so it's like 10 feet from the stream. So a little concerned that it's not tarped. But the other issue is that there's quite a dramatic erosion channel from the road right into the stream. And in the site visit, I took some photographs, but you could see that there was road sediment getting all the way down into the stream. And I am concerned about that. And that I think is really an issue around the road and the drainage in that area, that there needs to be something to capture those sediments and runoff before it hits the stream. It's kind of like where we've seen on dirt roads around town, like say that site we looked at a couple years ago on Wendell Road near South Brook, where there needed to be kind of a detention basin to settle out water before it hits the stream so that it isn't constantly washing the road sediment into the stream.
So we really need to send a letter to George and the LWA, because again, they're coming up pretty soon is their road work day, and they need to take a look at it to fix the issue, but maybe they need to be asked to put that pile someplace different, that it's now too close to the
I agree with that. I would say move the pile. I would say that if they are going to work on that area, though, it's going to need a permit because it's going to require creating a new stormwater detention basin that doesn't exist. And I would think that needs a permit because it's so close to the wetland.
Yeah, it needs to get sent to them so they can address it.
So are we in agreement about that? I mean, I can draft and send a letter, but I just want to get the commission's input about what should we say. Do we want to be telling them that we'd like them to come to a meeting and discuss what kind of permit for that location, or what they want to do with it?
Oh, and you want them to come to a meeting, or do you want them to come to a site visit and we go out and show them what we're talking about?
We could do a site visit. Absolutely.
It might be nice with whoever I don't know who their road committee person on that side is, but to invite George and them to a site visit with us so that we can look at it together.
Okay.
Otherwise, it could be meetings going back and forth. It would take forever to get it addressed.
Okay. Well, how would we schedule this so that other commissioners could come? Because I know
I think we need to send the letter and send the request for a site visit with that, so that they can get back to us about, or unless we have a date we'd like to do the site visit. I think it would probably have to be on a weekend. I'm not sure George is up here during the week.
Okay. Well, I think it's an important site visit. So I would really like to make sure that as many of us can come as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, I'll send a letter and ask for a site visit. And then Mary and I did a site visit at 14 Leverett Road today, where it was a building permit application. There were no resources, so I've signed off on the permit. And then I also have on the agenda, because I don't think we talked about it, there was a building lot that Mary and Robin and I think, Robin, maybe you were there, or can't remember if you were there, This is at near 409 West Pelham Road. This is where we met with Rio Arai.
Right, where we took a walk through the woods and
Yep.
where wetlands were. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. So there is a wetland on the property. They had it professionally delineated, and they've staked out where they're going to be building a new home and a septic system, and all of it is outside of the buffer zone. So they are good to go. And when they do have a building, this was kind of, I think, a preliminary request. So there is no building permit yet, but when a building permit comes, I think we could just agree that I'll sign off on the building permit since we've already reviewed it. If everybody's in agreement with that.
I agree.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right. We have site visits set up already for Monday. I'm waiting to get those confirmed, but I did reach out to the landowners for 62 Lake Drive and 59 Shore Drive, and I will contact you guys and email you and let you know when we get a confirmation from the landowners.
Okay.
Couple more things for tonight, and then we will end on the earlier side. We haven't had any follow-up from the select board regarding this gift donation. The resident who wanted to donate to a fund for the commission to use for bylaw related work. And he had sent an email clarifying that the terms of the gift were that he wanted it to be used by the commission for whatever kind of consultation services that we felt we needed, whether it be sort of technical advisors or legal review services. So keeping the option open that it didn't have to be used for a legal consultant. And I have not gotten a response. I just want to report that to the commission and let you know that's kind of still unclear. It's been a few months since the request.
Are we going to request again that they put it on their next agenda? I know we keep requesting it, but
yeah, it's very frustrating that.
Yeah, because this donation offer came in June.
Yeah,
right.
I think we should.
Carrie,
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is I know planning board's kind of in a similar thing where they're trying to set up a donation account as well. And I know that it's kind of also like in this limbo area. I think select board is still trying to sort out how these donation like accounts can get set up. I'm not entirely sure, but that just knowing that around the same time planning board has been trying to get a donation account as well. And they're kind of in the similar spot.
Yeah. Ours is a little different situation because it's not for legal defense for a lawsuit or anything, or it's not even or a particular project.
I'm pretty sure they approved that for them.
I believe they did.
I know they approved it, but I know it hasn't been set up.
Yeah. Okay. So this is because it's more straightforward. It's not related to a particular project. It's for this more general kind of regulatory work. You know, a gift account could be established. You know, people can make gifts with certain earmarks and bequests to municipal governments. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know what more to do. We just wait, I guess. So they know that we've wondered about it. So I don't know that I can do any more. Okay. I thought since we're not deliberating tonight about the regulations, we could at least have a little bit of debriefing about how the hearing went and hear from comments and discussion amongst ourselves about it. Like to hear how people felt. Did we just lose Mary? Oh, no, Mary's there. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
My suggestion is I do think we should ask for funds for Beth to come to our deliberation meeting. I know it's a tight schedule, but that was it shouldn't be a surprise since select board members were on the meeting, but I do think we should ask for another hour of her time or something to that effect for her to be at the deliberation meeting. That's just my opinion.
Scott?
I thought the meeting went well. I'm glad that we extended the public comment period through next week. I don't know if we need any more Beth's time. I think, I think it might depend on the comments that get raised. If there's a legal sufficiency question that keeps, coming up, or, I think we have incorporated so many of Gregor McGregor's suggestions or modified things. Most of the comments I heard really weren't around legal sufficiency to, with particular aspects of the regs. So, I'd like maybe if there's an opportunity to take a look at what comes in. And, to Mary's point, I agree with you, Mary, if we think that there is some legal aspect for her to analyze for us, or if we need that help. But based on what I heard so far at the public hearing, I really wasn't hearing much more of that. I think we were able to address all the legal questions.
Yeah. I would like to have her there. I mean, if it would be possible to have her there, I would think, if just to kind of close the loop, kind of have a, in case there was a question we want to ask, I think that would be helpful. I spoke with her briefly just at last night, just to say goodbye and thank her. And she affirmed again that she feels like these regulations are in good enough shape to be adopted without a worry. That she doesn't feel there needs to be any further edits from her perspective.
So, Carrie, can you print me out a hard copy of the final draft that we have online, up online posted?
Yeah, I can have that ready for you on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll send you an email once it's printed.
Thanks.
And yeah, so it's online. So that would be what she said. But if there were questions, it would be nice. So I could ask, what am I asking for? 2 hours of her time? Because if there's some comments, she might want to read the comments.
I would ask for up to 2 hours. I guess it
It
can't hurt to ask them. Yeah, I would put it up to 2 hours so they don't think we're going to go 3 if we say 2. But
yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I didn't. Oh, yeah. I had it raised hand more, or at least I didn't think I had.
Oh,
maybe
yeah. I thought maybe you were. What do you think, Scott?
I'm good. I mean, certainly it does no harm to have her there. And I think, she always has good counsel, and there may be things that come up. So, I'm not going to disagree with you. I would, you're the chair in running that. And if that would be helpful and you'd like to have her there, you'll get no argument from me. I guess I feel like you were able to walk through the regs. I think that you presented all the information. We had a good hearing. I listened to the public comments. I think a lot of the changes seem to be, pretty minor at this point, but I think a lot of what we had laid out was, in terms of changes before, were more substantive. I think the comments I was hearing really weren't even legal questions at this point anymore. I think it was just either people were upset about maybe some misinformation that they had heard, or they may have, a different, I think we were able to address their concerns, like, people being worried that they wouldn't be able to ever develop their property at Lake Wyola, or that we would be regulating septic systems. So that's the reason why I didn't really see the need for her anymore at this point. I feel like we've kind of vetted that, unless something else were to come in where we're like, oh my goodness, we had never thought this through. But seems like we've talked about these so much. I'm not expecting anything new, but to have her there, if that would be helpful, I would defer.
I mean, I agree with Scott for the fact that I don't really see any more legal things coming up, but you never know. I think we have incorporated all of her comments. Yeah, I wasn't saying it because I thought something else needed to be done. I think we did a great job on what needed to be done with her.
I guess my feeling is that these regulations have been poured over by 4 attorneys. And 3 of them gave very substantive feedback. We got very substantive feedback from Attorney McGregor, which I appreciated. And I want to thank the community and the select board. As difficult as this was, and I'm not saying that I was all together comfortable with the way it came about, but I would not look a gift horse in the mouth. And I think that his guidance and feedback allowed us to make these regulations better. And so that's a good thing. And I appreciate that. So, but we also, besides Beth's review, there was a very detailed review by Donna Brewer. And honestly, Beth looked at Donna's edits. And she agreed with them. So whether or not you think of Donna Brewer as just being partisan because she was representing private entities, that's fine. We can assume that she's representing private parties and she's going to represent her client's interests. But the actual comments that she made, our attorney also felt were appropriate from the perspective of her Beth Goodman's legal review. She didn't have any problems with them. So we've had several legal eyes look at it. And I think that at a certain point, good enough is good enough. And yes, legal questions might be raised in the next week. And I think that there's always going to be the potential for legal questions, what ifs, situations that maybe none of us can imagine. And ultimately, if there's a lot of complex what ifs, it's going to be our responsibility to try to wade through those when applications come before us, because we're not going to have a lawyer in the room with us when we're issuing permit decisions. Sometimes I wish we did, because I often find lawyers to be very helpful, but we have to put our big kid pants on and be commissioners and do the best we can. Ask for advice when we can, but certainly we can't be running up the town's legal bill, just having someone hold our hands. So I definitely feel like we should be judicious in our use of legal services. But, I'm okay with not having her there. We may not even have a choice, but I think, if there are a bunch of complex legal questions that somebody throws up in the next week, I think I'm going to be inclined to say, we'll take that under advisement, maybe for the next update for these regulations, but let's try them out. Let's give it for a spin around the block and see how these work for a while.
So how do you see the discussion around the bylaws going as a process?
For the bylaws itself?
I'm sorry, for the regulations.
You mean next week?
Yeah. How do you see our review occurring?
Well, I think we should have a recap and review what we've covered, what the testimony kind of, summarize the professional and expert testimony that we've received. And, every commissioner should get a chance to ask questions and talk about how they feel about these regs. I mean, ideally, I would hope that everybody's already vetted your questions and that they've been incorporated into drafts. I would hope that at this stage, we're at a consensus, but I can't speak for everybody.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd do it more as an overview rather than get down into the nitty gritty, unless there's a question about pieces of it.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty if we can avoid that. I think that isn't. I would have hoped that if there were nitty gritty questions that we would have been asking our consultants when we had them in the room.
Right. I agree.
So, yeah. Okay. So, I'm hearing, Mary, you would like to have Beth there. Scott, you're feeling like you don't need her there.
Well, let me go back. I think if we need her to be there. So
Okay.
let me rephrase. My comment really had to do with if we think she needed to be there to request the money.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like, I'm comfortable, like I said, what she said already. So,
Yeah, I'm going to be hard put, to be honest with you, to be feeling much of a desire at this late date to make any major edits to these regulations. I want to welcome people's opportunity to make public comments, and I see, the public comments being also an opportunity for us just to understand what people are concerned about, so that going forward, if we're going to do some education or provide informational handouts, that we'll kind of understand where we need to provide education for the community. But unless there's something that is really, really starkly, hitting us in the face that we haven't considered, I'm inclined not to have any more edits. I'd like to be done with this and move. Honestly, I'd like to be done with this and be able to move on to developing a new bylaw, which I think a lot of people have expressed interest in. And I'd like to, pivot to that. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I think, we've invited public comment here for the next week. So I guess I'd like to reserve our discussion, regarding what any of that might be. I'm not expecting anything substantive to come in, but I think we need to let that play out. And
Okay.
I like what Mary said. I'm not, because we have had so much legal input, because we have had so much public review, because there has been so much work from the commission. I too am not expecting anything major to come in at the 11th hour from this extra week of review with these other modifications that we already spent several hours reviewing with the public. That being said, if we get something that we're, like, oh, that's something we really hadn't considered, then maybe we need to talk about it. But that's kind of a what if, and I think we should go with the what is after we get the.
So one thing I do want to do is that I'd like to go ahead and put the public comments up on our website. I've got them downloaded and organized into a solid one single PDF that I can upload. I may break them down into smaller PDFs so they're combined chronologically. I'm going to break for people who have made multiple comments. I've thought about maybe putting those in a separate packet, because there's been some people who've made, multiple ones, or I can just put it all chronologically, whichever makes the most sense. I think the legal reviews, I would put in separate, in a separate PDF. That makes sense to everybody? Okay. All right. So we will do that. And now that we have the minutes approved from our first public hearing, we'll put those minutes up as well, which will be good. And when we get the minutes from our subsequent public comments, public hearings, we'll post those as well. All right. So for new wetlands bylaw planning, I did want to maybe reach out with another tickler to the select board, because we had asked a couple times about, getting a plan from them about getting consultation, because, kind of before we throw a bylaw into the public hearing process, we need to have a legal review. Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
So during the process of when planning board did their solar bylaw, I know at one point they had to have a meeting with the select board to talk about their amendments in their plan. It's been a little bit since I did that, so I can't remember the exact process because that was the only one I've been a part of. But I know that is one of like the earlier steps is having a joint meeting with the select board with
And I think that
the draft or
yeah, I think that no.
I think at the last meeting, the select board did bring up the fact that we had submitted the bylaws and they needed to review them. So I'm hoping that's on their next agenda too.
Okay. So the planning board went to the select board after they had drafted the bylaw and had the legal review. So they had a working committee reviewing it. It was
Michael DeCara, Jeff Lacey, and in a part with Donna.
So we need a legal review. You know, ideally it would be great to have whatever attorney is going to do it be available to go over it with us and then make any edits that we need to make. I usually prefer to kind of do that one-on-one or in a smaller meeting with the attorney before doing it for you know, kind of rolling it out, because you know, if it's a rough draft, you know, we kind of want to make sure we're cleaning up anything that's really problematic. But it is out there on our website, so it is available for the public to review at this point. So
okay. Carrie, can you print me a copy of that too?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So do you want me to email the select board, or do we want to leave it and see what they come up with? Do you think they know?
I'd like to just see, I'd like to see if, I'd like them to have a chance to review it. So, I mean, if you want to email them and say, you know, please let us know when you guys have had a chance to review this so that we can get together and talk about it or something.
Right, but before the review, we need to get a legal consult. It has to get revised. It's going to probably have to get revised. This is a rough draft. We need to get it reviewed. That's usually the process. So bringing it to the select board and asking them to sponsor public hearings and putting it on a town meeting warrant, it's sort of premature to have that asked when we don't have a draft that we're comfortable with yet.
Yeah, that's not what I was saying, but so, I mean, if you want to ask them for funding to have a legal review, then that's fine too.
I think that's what we need to do. I think that's the process that is usually done, is that the committee that's tasked with developing the bylaw, which is us in this case, would then work usually with town council or with whomever to review it. And I'm open to whoever. If they say that, well, we really want McGregor to do it, that's fine. I just would like then McGregor to work with us. That means talk to us, come to our meetings, interact with us, and help us. I don't want to have it just getting, you know, like a written opinion that we can't respond to. I want to be able to respond to a person and have ask questions and make it better. Have an opportunity to kind of probe how to improve it. That would be my goal.
So we don't know if Donna would recuse herself this time.
I do not know.
Because that may be a question too.
Okay. And you know, if I'm sure Beth Goodman would be willing to do this for us. But again, I'm not wedded to which attorney. I just feel like, you know, we need an attorney. Okay. All right. I will send them an email and ask them about that. And I think we're good for tonight. I don't think we have anything else, right? I was kind of updating the frequently asked questions for the regulations. And I was kind of looking through comments and looking through my notes from the public hearings to see, well, are there some frequently asked questions that maybe we should be addressing? And so I guess that's one last question I have for you guys. I was going to add some language clarifying this concern about bans, like on development. Clarifying that. But what is there any other questions that you have come up that you think maybe would be very helpful for us to have a response to?
I don't think I have any new questions. I would think that we should probably take off the questions that have already been answered and don't seem to have any more concerns, and to make them shorter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the questions were on there and no public comments can't come up about them, I think that
okay, or maybe just condense them, right?
Yeah, that's see what.
Yep, can do that. Anything? Okay. All right. Well, I will make we're meeting on the 12th at 7 p.m. I think is what we're scheduled for. So I want to make a motion to adjourn at 8:22 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, David.
Aye.
DeFont, aye. Harrington.
Aye.
And Khan. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Night. Good night, Carrie.
Good night.